A Pensive Pilgrim Spiritual Impressions for January 27th. Ruth chapter 2, verse 12. The Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust. It would be hard to find a character in the Bible who defines helplessness and humility more accurately than Ruth. Even in her home country of Moab, she must have been considered somewhat of an outcast, having married a poor Hebrew immigrant whose family had come to Moab to escape a famine. Then, after all the men had died, the matriarch Naomi was moved to go back to her own people, broken-hearted and with little hope. But Ruth clave to her mother-in-law and vowed to honor her and her people and her God until death. Ruth vowed to abandon the hope of a new husband in her own country, turning her back on the idolatry and false gods she had known her entire life. It was the decision of her life, akin to when Abraham obeyed the voice of God and left Haran. In spite of all of Naomi's warnings about hardship and possible lifelong widowhood, Ruth would not return to her people. You see, it was frowned upon for an Israelite to marry a Moabitess, so the prospect of Ruth finding a husband in Israel was pretty dim. But Ruth was different. There were warnings against marrying foreigners, not because they were foreigners, but because of the likelihood to be led astray into paganism. Ruth made a vow to Naomi that Naomi's people would be her people, and that Naomi's God would be her God. This love and devotion went past her self-interest. Ruth loved Naomi and couldn't bear to see her wander off back to Israel alone. She couldn't bear to abandon her and couldn't bear to be abandoned as well. This is the kind of love that destroys all obstacles. This kind of love and devotion is noticed and recorded and remembered by people, good people. It seemed there wasn't much for Ruth to trust in when she decided to go west and leave her kin. I imagine it was a bit intimidating at first, not knowing the language, looking different, being from an enemy country, a daughter of Lot. But she trusted in a God she barely knew. She may have had about a mustard seed worth of knowledge and faith, but it amounted to a mountain of trust, for it was displayed in a lifetime of good works and devotion to the God of Israel and love for an old widow. This may seem small and even inconsequential when we compare it to the works of Moses and David and Elijah, but it was enough to find her place in the heart of her Redeemer. No matter how small we may think we are or how little we think we do, everything we do matters. Everything.